we have, and now school is. I'm saying I'm tired from work. I have to be concentrating in class.
All right, I think tonight we've got one of the shortest tasks, 1 page, and almost straight to the point. I love this task. So initially, you'll see that in our plans, Elton was meant to do it. So I'm actually stepping into his shoes right now. So I'm sure you will have loved to do it. So I'm trusting that we'll do justice to it overall. But one beautiful task, as I was saying, and I was really, really impressed with the APC examination committee. I mean, in terms of practicality, the tasks that you just covered with Kumu now and this one, they are perfect. I mean, these are really quality tasks. And essentially, please just mute. Essentially, from a practicality perspective, when they really talk about what an entry-level chartered accountant will be expected to do, this is exactly it. And I'm sure if you have your friends in banking, they will really confirm this kind of view and task that they do on a regular basis. And even more, one of the questions that I saw relating to the previous one to see, was it auditing or was it math? And again, you'll see that most of the due diligence assignments that are done out there, they're actually done by the Big Four. And most of the people that actually do it are previous auditors, because it really helps you to think about how a business operates and where the risks in terms of valuation may come from. There's a bit of difference in thinking when you get to when you really think about due diligence from an auditing perspective. And I really hope that the lessons you've taken from that task really help you to be formidable CS going forward. But anyways, here we are. Document F. So we've gone through the pre-release. We saw that the company was looking to acquire this Elgin Open School. We saw and we asked a number of interesting questions. More so, I'm trusting that you went and looked at Curo in terms of the kind of acquisitions that they've done and how they've thought about them. And really a well-prepared research or a well-undertaken research focusing on the elements that we covered during the reflection videos will have gone incredibly a long way. And when the task was triggered then, you will have then seen that it looked like a single task. I had thought and was worried that it would be a very difficult task, but it was then encouraging to come on the day and see that they had separated the two issues from each other, which was quite good. But then when I read this task, there was something that made it a bit difficult for me, because I thought some of the things probably I would have thought about them in the previous one. And I wondered whether they wanted me to go into detail as much into this question. I mean, just looking at other operating cost, employee cost, and revenue tuition. There were a couple of things that I was thinking about here that I thought about here, and I wondered, where did I need to draw the line? Did I need to draw the line there and not repeat myself here? or to the extent that the issue is relevant in both sides, I need to really address it. And that's the approach that I ended up taking, to say that if an issue is relevant, if it is worth asking, then let me raise it again here, because as much as it's an operational issue, it can in fact affect the valuation of the business. And I don't know whether any of you were in the same boat as me, where now you were asking questions about the learners, about the revenues on top. Then you come here and you see that the valuation is really based on that top line. And now you are asking about these numbers and being concerned about the overstatement. So those were, for me, some of the challenges in this question. But let's get into it, and maybe you will get to share more on this. So I've just received the proposed valuation from the shareholders of E. The following is an executive summary of the valuation. All right. Blah, 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 so on. Then the task. I need you to apply your mind to the methodology used. So that is the first request. But what does it mean, professionally speaking, to say apply your mind? So what is to apply one's mind? And therefore, what did you do for the subtask number 1? Then, as part of applying your mind to the methodology, or in addition to applying your mind to the methodology, apply your mind to the assumptions underlying the valuations, all right? And the valuation results. Feel free to bring any issues relating to the acquisition to my attention that you feel I should consider. And I remember last time we had a very interesting conversation about this, that what if I don't feel free to do this? Should I just leave it? In other words, is it like an embedded optional task that I need to, or I should choose to respond or not to respond? How do you normally feel about such? Do you see it as mandatory, or do you see it as if time allows, or if you have any thoughts to do? What is usually your impressions of this? Or is this how your bosses talk and you're saying that, I know if my bosses say I should feel free to do something, they are just saying in a nice way I should do something? Atara?
Hi, Rendani.
Hi.
For me, it means that you have to do it. Because
so you are not free to.
I think being free for me talks to you are allowed.
You are allowed.
You are allowed to bring issues. Yeah, that's how I take it. You are allowed to bring issues relating to the acquisition to my attention. And because this is APC, obviously they want something.
All right.
So yeah.
Great stuff. So we are all in agreement that this is a mandatory task. You should just be free to do it. Like, interesting way to talk. Linda, yes.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Now I can hear you. Go for it, please.
I think they feel free to bring issues relating to the acquisition. I think it is a charge in the embedded one, but I think there's like sort of maybe a tone expected that you need to bring here, because like feel free, but your tone here needs to be, I don't know how to explain it, the tone, because you want to bring anything that you don't need.
Okay. All right. I think you guys, we are aligned. which is good. As I was saying that some people were bothered by this before, but I'm glad we are on the same page. I hope to give you some time now to apply yourself, so that they are really giving you a hint that here you need to be present. So apply yourself. Just, I mean, just see the emphasis. Apply your mind, and I hope to give you some time now to apply yourself. So we have to apply ourselves. Now, talk to me. How did you respond to this? Did you then have 3 separate headings to say that, oh, Ryan, thank you very much for the task. You've essentially asked for 3 things. You want my view on what? On the methodology. I'm gonna talk to you about that. And then 2, you want my views on the what? On the assumptions and the valuation results. Number 3, you want me to bring other issues relating to the acquisition. Did you attempt it this way with headings, or you just went and dealt with it? Did you see it as 3 things that you needed to do, or you want to approach it differently? Are we aligned?
On my side, I think. Can you hear me?
Sure.
No, I think on my side, and now I can say that I missed the last part. So I had the 2 headings.
I'm losing you. I think I lost the latter part of what you see.
No, I think on my side, I missed the last part to do a heading for the last part in terms of training.
Also, you're saying that you didn't raise any other issues?
So I might have raised them while I was into it. I didn't have sort of a heading to say other issues.
And I'm with you. Yeah. So from what I understand is that he is saying that he did not specifically have heading number 3, and somewhere along the way, as he dealt with this, he could have addressed other issues. I tried to just combine everything on the day, but I think that is why I was unable to get a C. All right. Thank you for that view, Cindy. Emmanuel?
Yes, for me, I think I did apply like the 3 things that we have in the question, but then maybe my approach was more of memory dump as opposed to applying the scenario on the day and also on the case study. Because yes, I was focusing more on like the basic principles of valuation, such as like applying this method, we need like to like the company that we're acquiring should be a going concern, and all those theory that is in like valuation for this particular method. Maybe that's what failed me on the day.
All right, and we're going to touch on those points because they were not necessarily incorrect. But I always find APC that the level of technicality that it demands, it's so foundational. You really need to show that you know what this means, rather than just I can do the calc, because I think that point came last time. And if you look at this, the calcs look so basic here. And surely it cannot be a matter of basics. It cannot be a matter of complexity of calculation. All right, but now, do you agree that fundamentally, the task is to review presented before you. Like if now you meet or a friend asks you that, so what were you busy with? Do you agree that the best response here was, I was just busy reviewing evaluation from a client or from the target company? Essentially, that is what this task is all about. We are all good, right? That if they had told us to review this valuation, then we will do exactly what they've told us before. And that's an important point to say that if you find yourself in March 2022 and they say review evaluation, then you will probably need to say, do I agree with the methodology first? And do I have any concerns? Then go into it on a line by line. And do you remember what we said you do when you do a review? What are the 3 things that you always need to be mindful of? Did it?
Okay.
The principles, if they are correct, and if there are any omissions, and the reasonableness of the figures given.
Did you see that this, if you had applied it, it is my view that a C would have just been just on your hand. I mean, this thing, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, but where is this? Oh, where is that? Where is this? How does this make sense? You told me this, how? And so on. Like almost every line item here could be subjected to search. Did you see that? Did it not make your life easier when you're approaching it that way? Did it not?
Rendani, I think my approach was not correct. Only now that I've learned 1 or 2 things.
Okay, but now thinking about this approach, was it helpful for you?
Yes, I think so, because I could identify some of the things that are missing when I look at this information, and also some of the numbers could not make sense, and principles as well. I could pick up some of the things, yeah.
So you had almost a point under each of these 3 categories.
Yeah.
Great. So all you then had to do was just to put it in the right bucket to make sure that all the boxes are ticked, right? Just have I spoken about the methodology? In other words, do I agree with the approach? My view on the assumptions, that is essentially the reasonability, the valuation result, is it missing anything? And are there any errors in it? I mean, this is it. The examiners asking this thing that we now know in a fancy way.
Yeah, my question or concern at the moment is, how do I then put it out, like the layout, you know? The methodology, yes, I understand that I have to assess if it's the right methodology, but in terms of the details, how deep do I have to go? Yeah.
Let's go for it, right? Let's deal with issue number 1. Issue number 1, it means you take a step back and you look. So when you look here, you will first need to tell the examiner, because the examiner or the marking team did not tell you which technique was used. But remember that you had 3 that you were going to investigate as part of your PRI. So number 1, which technique did they use? Which technique did they use? Because I have to start there by talking to Ryan, because Ryan is saying apply your mind to the methodology used. But did you notice that he did not describe it to me? And I'm wondering that maybe Ryan just doesn't know it. So it will be beneficial to tell Ryan about this and its assumptions. Do you understand? Do you see how we are structuring our thought? That if I just said, I saw that they did something, guys, please tell me their approach. Why am I not being specific? Maybe I'm just not clear. So I need to be helped. So you cannot just now come and thresh it out without telling me. So this is what, as Tinashe said, this is the earnings-based valuation methodology using specifically what? Specifically the EBITDA multiple approach. This is my starting point. Then, is it appropriate? Guys, is this technique appropriate to value this company? Atara, I see you have your hand up.
Hi,
Is it-
Randani.
Yes.
I wanted to, sorry?
Go, sorry.
Oh, I wanted to say the EBITDA, but I didn't put down my hand. But please repeat the question you just asked now.
I'm saying now you've told Ryan which technique was used. So as part of applying your mind, I'll think that you will need to either give Ryan the fundamental assumptions, or you will need, and then you will comment on whether it's appropriate. And if you deem it not to be appropriate, you will then suggest a better method. So do you see my approach? Maybe let me write my approach down. Because if someone asks you to do this, I will say identify the approach. That's number one. Then number two, outline the assumptions or the principles that makes this appropriate. Then apply and conclude whether in this context it is appropriate or not. And then number three, if not, number four, if not appropriate, then suggest an alternative and move on. Approach. Cindy, you are saying to me the method is okay, but remember I'm Ryan here. What is okay? So that means I am saying that your answer is not standing on good ground because it has not addressed number two, it has not addressed number three, and now imagine I'm going to a meeting and I say that, guys, I saw you use the earnings-based valuation technique and you want us to pay 16 million. We think the method is okay, but we want DCF. Do you think you will have given me enough ground to stand on as Ryan going into that meeting? Do you think so? That what if I'm being challenged by a junior on the other side? Will you have given me, as the CFO of this company, enough ground to stand on?
No.
So give me that ground.
Okay, can I try?
Sure.
The ground is that we are trying to invest in a school, or we're trying to buy a school, and a school also contains buildings and other assets. And the other thing is, what the most important thing in preparing a valuation for a major shareholding or 100% acquisition is the cash flow, which will be used to determine the value of what we are acquiring.
And again, that's not good ground enough. You just motivated why I should believe you and not this. But still, I'm not comfortable to go to that meeting.
I am calling a friend, Rendan.
And then
It's a good thing that you don't work for a company alone, because you have to call someone. But in the assessment, you are the only employee. Yes, who is next? Let me just check this Teams thing. Linda, you're on top of the list. Go for it.
I wanted to tell you my approach on this one, especially when it comes to the assumptions that we use and whatsoever. Eh? The way I discussed it, like this was like the dividend growth and whatsoever is not sufficient to give us like more details, and the cash flow. There's a lot of assumptions that are required there, of which like the schools might not be having that information and looking forward and the way things are going right now. And the reason I agreed to
But
this valuation was like,
sorry, which information will the school not have? Which information will a DCF require and it will not be available here?
okay, man, fine. Let me tell you my approach, then we'll come to that question.
Wait, where are
The
you
reason
taking
why,
me?
okay, I want to finish like.
Yes, but
I
maybe
hear
explain
you.
to me. Wait, are you criticizing this and taking me to? I want to know where you are taking me, so that you don't lose me in the middle. So you are attempting to prove that this is not appropriate, and you are taking me where? Is that your approach?
I'm proving this. I'm proving that this is an appropriate method.
Or you are saying this is good?
No, like the reason why I'm saying was based on the research and schools, like most of them they use the PE method to use schools based on the research.
So I
They
saying,
don't
just
use
to make
the
sure with you, I saying you agree with this approach?
yes. Right.
Okay, all right, sure, all right. Go for it. I'm with you now.
No. And the reason why I'm saying okay, this one is good comparing to the discounted cash flow. It's based on like looking at my industry and whatsoever, and the other companies that they recently acquired school or they value their school. Most of them they use this method, and it was based on research. I can't like remember all the details, but most of the companies maybe or say schools they're using this method.
So confirm with me whether they used this method or they referred the price to this method, because those are two separate things. Did they confirm that they based their valuation using this method, or did they say at the end the price that we paid is equals to so much of times the multiple?
Right now, I think I can't say, I can't confirm anything.
And maybe just to because if you look at I don't know whether you saw the latest real foods combining into Virgin Active. I mean that is a very good read right there, because there they said that we're gonna be investing in post valuation amounts, and they said the valuation was determined as follows. They actually did an earnings-based valuation technique, and then they showed how then the shareholders are coming in. So there it was clear. Then there are also some other transactions where they will use a DCF, but when they report to the market, because the market will probably take time to consume the DCF, they will then say the price that we've paid is so much of the multiple of the earnings, so that shareholders and investors and analysts can quickly understand the merits of the transaction. And there they will not clarify which technique they've used, but they will just reference it to a multiple. So that's why I was saying that based on your research, did they explicitly say this method, or did they refer to it as the outcome from a pricing perspective?
Okay, fine. Now, I think it's difficult to answer your question right now. Because what we did was like checking how do they they use school, and so far it was like almost everyone was using the multiple earning. That's when we come to say, okay, everyone is using this method, but we try to question why are they not using the cash flow. And we saw, okay, some point there, it was okay, fine, it's time consuming and coming with assumptions in the next few years can be difficult. So hence, yeah. And looking at the average, we concluded that say, okay, no, it's fine, PE is correct.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. But do you think that the difficulty outweighs the challenges of the simplicity of the risk at hand? Like, because you're saying that it's complex or it's challenging. But do you think that's enough? Because it's like we are saying that, guys, we understand why you use the earnings based. This is much easier and we are comfortable to pay this price. Because remember, you are buying, and someone, if they just come to you and say that I didn't value that technique, which might be more accurate because it's a bit more challenging, then you guys should just pay me on this much simpler technique.
No. I hear you. But okay, I'm gonna be honest. The reason why we agreed with this multiple earnings was based on a lot of schools that were acquired recently, not even recently, maybe in the past few years, they were using this method. Yeah? And the other one is like, okay, fine. Even though we are using this method, we can always confirm using another method. Which can use really they just for company.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you. Tinashe, your views?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, so in order to confirm the methodology, I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but I wanted to just tell the examiner that this method is only used, say when the entity is a going concern, and also if the company has got like an earnings history, and also because we need to compare with we need a listed company comparator, which is the EBITDA multiple that we can use. So I think we had Curo and other companies that they gave us.
Yeah.
And also because it's appropriate because we're valuing a majority valuation, because it looked like those owners wanted to sell the whole school. They didn't want to be part of this this school, because I assume when they pay them a huge dividend, they wanted to get out of this whole thing. So I just assume they're gonna sell the big chunk, more than 50%. So we'll be valuing the majority shareholder. And also, that was just to justify that the method is appropriate.
Got it.
Then I don't know if you want me to go on criticizing, or we can just leave it there now.
But so far, do you feel that you've applied the context enough? Like I'm finding that it's a very good theoretical answer, but do you feel that you've applied the context enough? Like, given the context, are you able to stand back and say that the reasons that are theoretically correct are also practically correct in this context?
Yeah,
Okay.
another aspect I wanted to add there, I forgot. You know, I don't remember what I wrote exactly. Because
I will want you to be present today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Also, I realized that this company, the EBITDA multiple was appropriate in the sense that the schools, the biggest asset was land and building. So EBITDA multiple exclude those stuff. And you only focus on the profit before, the profit before tax and EBITDA, and depreciation. So I felt like this might be more reasonable because given those impairments and all stuff that happened, it might have affected the value significantly.
All right. What do you mean the last part? I think the last part you lost me a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying that because depreciation, the impairment, obviously it will form part of depreciation. So I felt like excluding depreciation on determining the value can be relevant to this type of, to the schools.
All right. I hear you. I hear you. Gracious? Are you aligned to the two speakers? Yes.
Yes, I am, but I wanted to add or try to apply more. Yeah. So in substantiating the appropriateness of the method, I think on the going concern, I would say that our EBITDA is positive. So it's something that we can consider as a going concern, even though it's lower, but it's positive. And also when we look at the number of our average learners, they are going up. I mean, yes, from the previous years, they're going up. So it's an indication that we can expect the school to continue running in the future. And then also we are given a history of earnings because we were given financial statements from the previous years. And then yeah, I think the other two aspects, the other two speakers already touched on it, on the fact that we are given information about Curo, and Curo has done some acquisition of mid-tier schools. So we can use Curo as our what do you call, our reference point, like when it comes to the multiple itself. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think there was a fourth head, then I'll jump in. Dennis.
Hi everyone. I just want to quickly understand. I'm a little bit in disagreement with the other speakers. So isn't it we needed to for us to make a conclusive decision, we need to first understand like what's the trend, just evaluate if there's a profit trend, not only just for 2 years, but looking back for a bit of some time. And before we even conclude to say going concern, shouldn't we kind of motivate, add a little bit more flesh to it? But it's just a thought.
Flesh-like, maybe help us with some flesh.
Like for example, in this case, they literally used the 2021 financial year results, and then we've got 2019 and 2020. We haven't considered if there's an upward trend, and looking in general to say, is it sustainable or has it been sustainable in the previous years? and then just looking, we're saying it's a going concern that I can relate to, say basically looking at the information in the prior year, we can maybe consider it as a going concern. But shouldn't we kind of have more information from management to say this is our prospects going forward, like kind of like assumptions, what they believe in their company?
And these assumptions, how will they help you to get to an answer whether this is an appropriate technique or not?
So in terms of, let me just take a step back. When I'm looking at the assumptions, for me, this is basically just to conclude that it is actually a going concern. And then the trend that I was referring to is actually to establish, is there an upward trend that I can rely on the previous year's earnings?
But just to touch on that, are you not going to rather use that information to answer what adjustments will need to be done to the technique rather than to say the technique is appropriate or not?
Oh, you're right. You're right. No, I agree with you. It makes sense. Okay. Okay.
William, let's go.
Hi.
Then we'll go for it.
Hi, Rendani. I just wanted to answer the application part. I think I might have missed some of the candidates' answers because I had network issues, but can I try? So in terms of going concern, so my application would be based on that the entity has been profitable for the past 2 years, and I'd also support it with the liquidity and solvency issue. So looking at that and those ratios, I would assume that the entity would be able to operate in the next 12 months. So that for me would be my support for the going concern part. And then because the entity has been I have financial statements for 2019 and 2020. I would then say it's an established business because that's the only information I have at this point. And then on the case of maintainability, I think this one is where I wasn't sure because they say their revenue is around 7.5, and comparing 2019 and 2020, there was an increase of about 9%, and then looking at the forecast that I am given and comparing it to 2020, I think the increase was about 5%. So in terms of maintainability of the revenue, I'm not quite sure on that. And then in terms of their earnings, they've been achieving profits from 2019. So that would support the fact that they have positive earnings. And then for a similar proxy company, we have Curo, we have the EdTech, so we can use that.
No, thank you. So let me just note some of those things down. Listed peers. Is to use as proxy place. Right. So yeah. So from a theoretical perspective, you guys are in the money. We are aligned with that. So yeah, we are aligned. The interesting responses that are coming from you. So let me do that. So you then told Ryan that, all right, Ryan, based on the fact that the company has had a positive earnings history as per the information you provided us, and we understand that there is Curo and advec that are listed and we understand that these current that are listed and therefore could be considered to be proxy. We believe that the methodology right, interesting. So, right, I will buy it. And the more I buy it, the more I'm thinking that what I want to say, whether it's necessary. Is it necessary? Let me assume it is necessary. So in addition, this technique has a fundamental assumption that current earnings, whether historic or forecasted, will be sustained into the foreseeable future. And that 2019 is a pre-COVID-19 period, and 2020 was the first year that the school operated under COVID-19, and we saw a significant drop, or noteworthy, let me say noteworthy, a noteworthy drop in EBITDA. And COVID-19 continued into the 2021 academic year. It makes me uncomfortable to undertake evaluation into perpetuity using such period. And for this, I will not consider this to be appropriate. Accordingly, a technique which will help me to consider the estimated performance beyond the COVID-19 period, or once face-to-face is resumed, might be more suitable. So that will probably be what I will add. That's why I'm saying that I'm not disagreeing with you. What you're saying is theoretically appropriate, but I wanted a bit more. But that's just me. And this could be just hopefully something that might be beyond the expectation. But yeah, let's leave it there. So I'll leave that for you to ponder on. Let's deal with subtask number 2. In addressing subtask number 1. So that's why I'm saying we are not misaligned. I was just saying that I would have done a bit more. And based on, I don't know whether you guys have read research on valuation during COVID, but valuing using an earnings-based valuation technique in this period has been extremely challenging, not just in the education sector, but across. And there is quite a lot of evaluators which are saying that, where are we now? Should we go back? What should we be going back to pre-COVID-19 levels, and so on and so on? I mean, I don't know whether you've been seeing the reporting from the banks of financial industry recently. Your Standard Bank, your APSA, your Liberty, your Sanlam, they've been coming out and saying that their performance, it's always been compared with the 2019 COVID levels. And that has always been, that actually caught my attention, to say that they are recognizing that COVID period was just a very unusual period. And therefore, in just bringing them, the shareholders into the party, and we really need to show them that kind of thinking. But let's leave it there.
Brandani, just a quick
Yes.
question on the DCF. Will it then not be difficult to get the estimates? I mean, taking into account that we are into COVID, estimating the future values.
But you, given your historic operations, pre-COVID and 2 years into COVID, there should be some level of stability now. That question, I think it will have been probably more appropriate in Jan 2021. But sitting now, I think a lot of comfort around what we can do under COVID and what we can do if COVID is not around next year, and those kind of issues. There's a bit of greater level of certainty. Remember that even before, DCF used to present challenges because no one could predict the future. So that has always been an inherent limitation of DCF. And the COVID in the past 2 years had just complicated it, because no one knew what it meant, whether the vaccine will be available on time, whether it will still be under lockdown, and so on. But over the past 2 years, a lot of those questions have been responded to. So I don't think a matter of difficulty is just enough to now discount a technique.
Oh, okay.
But the concern we have here is that you are taking 1 year and you are assuming that it will be a representative of the entire future. That is what this technique does. And in one, just thinking about that, that's a big if for me, to say 1 year will be representative of the future. And when we get to the details, you'll then see that even here it was quite rough. But just that assumption to say 2021, do you think that this will be a representative year to companies out there? And because you are saying, and we're in agreement to say this is a going concern technique, and you are saying that 1 year, it's that of assuming that this company is going to be like that. So the rough estimate that you're taking here, it could be considered to be too rough. Whereas here you could say that 2021 was a bit risky, so let's down that a bit. Then 2022, we think things will be better, but not as good as 2019. So we'll bump it up a bit. Then 2023, we are thinking that, yes, this is a level where we are comfortable. Then you start applying, but the flexibility that DCF will give you is just too much. And that is why we will then possibly say to management rather consider this technique because you can play around with it and the assumption underlying the company's future.
Okay, but to mitigate, not only considering 1 year, isn't that averaging thing then help in that instance?
Which
we
one?
don't, like in terms of averaging the earnings, if we don't have stable earnings.
But they didn't do it here.
So will I be wrong then suggesting that to get comfort we can do the averaging of earnings because we can see we don't have a stable or a constant growth of earnings? I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
That could be worth motivating. That could be. But let's close this.
Okay.
Let's now do the next slide. Yes, but that will be a good approach.
Aaron,
Yes.
sorry, I just want to ask in terms of, you're saying due to COVID, like maybe DCF is better, but since we are using 2021 numbers, wouldn't that be more conservative? And that's like, yeah, we're not necessarily overvaluing the company. And also then when you get to now the subtask 2, if you've now concluded in subtask 1 that maybe DCF is better, in these are two different valuation techniques. In subtask 2, do you go line by line and say this would have been in this manner if it was DCF, and that's why I'm criticizing it? Or like, how do you approach that if now you've concluded that this approach wasn't appropriate?
Then some of the things that Grace is talking about will probably be part of your number 3, which is other issues related to the acquisition. So for me, if Grace then had put it, or Gracious, sorry, had put it here, that would have been a perfect solution to say, as much as I'm in agreement with the technique, I will want us to then consider a weighted average earnings kind of approach because of pre-COVID figures and COVID figures. And assuming that the world to some in the future might not have this, and this is a technique all the way to the future, that would have been a perfect answer to put under number 3. That will be a great response. But let's bed that down. We'll come back to that. But as I'm saying, that would have been a response then. All right. Forecast revenue for 2021, 451 learners and a price of 450. So we understand that this is just them estimating revenue. And do you have any concern with this? So revenue is a function of 2 inputs, learners as well as the fees. So from a technical perspective, do you agree that this calculation looks right? So I'm trusting that no one probably raised what? The technicality in the calc. But what about from a reasonability perspective? Because Ryan say, apply your mind to the assumption underlying the what? The valuation and the result. Were you anyway concerned about the inputs in this case? Yes or no? Were in any way concerned?
Hi, Renani.
Mm-hmm.
For me, technically, there were no assumptions here. I mean, normally when they give us a question like this, they will have assumptions and number them. But here, I didn't see that.
But they don't do that much, do they? In APC, they just want you to jump in. Check 2019, check 2020. 18, they had some numbers because they wanted to, some notes because they wanted you to interrogate the notes themselves, in addition to the line items where they were silent.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will go check it. It's just,
Okay.
yeah, Minik. Yeah.
Rendani,
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that I had a question or of was the fee on that revenue, like looking at the average tuition fee for 2019 and 2020. Yes, I see there was an increase, but I don't know. I was sort of like thinking 40,450 was, I don't know, a bit high. And yeah, I don't know
The
if
level or the increase?
Yeah.
Which one? The increase from the previous year to this, or just S40 as it is?
The level of increase, like the percentage. Yeah.
But it's only 5. So you thought it was a bit too much. Did you come into the assessment with inflation?
Oh, okay. No, I see. I didn't link it to that.
Okay.
Hi, Rendani. So with the 451 learners, like I kind of raised a question into like how did they come up with that? So I see someone in the chat, I think they said it was 3 to 5%, but like have we considered that now there's new management, we don't know, like, because I assume when you school goes into new management, a lot of things about the school might change. Like, are we sure parents won't take their child out of the school? Maybe teachers will leave because they don't want the new management. Like, have we factored that into account? Where is this like percentage increase coming from? So I'm not sure if that was an appropriate thing to consider, or if like it was a reasonable amount. And then like with the tuition fee, since you're saying like it's in line with inflation, do you just go and say this is fine because it's in line with inflation, or do you not mention it due to, I think the task asked for like review, bring issues into account, so like it's not really an issue, so do you still mention it if you don't have an issue?
Yeah, interesting questions there. Let me just say, in addressing subtask number 3, because I think one of the things that you spoke about now, I will put as probably impacting the whole thing, because you are saying that with the current owners leaving the school, will it not impact the parents' goodwill, and also the staff towards what? Towards new management. So for me, this auditing, which we call a pervasive issue, because it could impact the revenue, it could impact the management of the school, and so on. So I will have put it as number 3, because he said put any other issues, so feel free to raise any other issues. So that's where I will put it, which is a very good point for me. So I will have addressed it then. And I think we are going back to what we spoke about last week, where we were saying sometimes you've got points and it just takes time because you are breaking it down. And you might be saying that, what if I just put it here? Is that fine? It could be fine. But I'm just saying that because this sounds like a very big question for Ryan to consider after I've done the detailed review, then I will have raised it separately. And then with regards to the inflation, so what I was just posing, it's whether Gracious had thought about that, or whether she has brought that into the assessment And therefore, in questioning this, it helped a bit to say that actually the inflation was higher than 5. So if I'm increasing by 5, I've already taken a knock, and that could be reasonable. And or otherwise, the inflation was too low, and this could then be considered to be excessive, which could then impact the learner numbers. So do you see where I'm coming from with the inflation point, that it will depend where it is, and therefore the kind of view that I will raise. Does that make sense, Cindy?
No, I think I'm still a bit confused, because I think I remember from my research, inflation was maybe 6, and when I calculated that, I think it was like 5%. So I saw it reasonable, so I didn't say anything on that 40,000. So I'm not sure what I was supposed to say on that 40,000.
So they said apply your mind to the assumptions. So did you raise that to the as part of your response? Because apply your mind to the assumptions. Did you now only looked at what you didn't believe, or what you believed with good reasons you then stated?
So that's also where I'm a bit confused as to why I would state, like, so they increase it by inflation. So must I go and say that I'm comfortable with that because they increase it by inflation? I feel like
But wait, I thought
place
you
would you
said
make that kind
inflation
of
was 6 in your research.
But is that 1% significant?
From a perspective, like, remember, even when VAT increased by 1%, it was considered to be a big issue.
Oh,
so
okay.
1% change, it is probably worth talking about to say that when we compare with history, when we compare with inflation, because if then our costs increase by this 6% and we only increase by 5%, already we're expecting a negative impact on our profit.
Oh,
So,
okay, I get what you're saying.
Yes, so from a percentage point, it's always quite important to then bring these things into context. Because if you look at this is 18 million, right? 1%, you're looking at what? 183. We go back to the profit for the year. The profit for the year is 652.
Hi, Randan.
Yes. So if it's 652, then about 180 adding to that number, that's significant. Do you see the 1% impact?
Yes.
That if you contextualize it, it will flow down. Clear, Cindy?
Yes, that is clear. Thanks.
Yes. So I will not want you to discount it, especially if you're dealing with numbers in millions.
Hi, Randan.
Hi, Randan. Can I come in?
I think Emmanuel was here. Emmanuel, maybe just let's give Emmanuel a chance.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, Randan. While we're still on revenue, somewhere in the information of the day, it was mentioned that like some parents were actually protesting in like against the increase in the fees that are charged to the student. Will we still say is reasonable or fair, like for this particular school to increase their fees that are charged to students, while we've seen like other parents protesting and requesting for a rebate?
No, and that's a very good point, Manuel, right there. So you are saying that increasing, assuming, let's just be clear, because this is an assumption put forward. The assumption that revenue will grow at historical, or not revenue, what is it? The fee. That the fee will grow at historical rates might be a challenge, given that what? Given that parents are already protesting against against this, against the increase in the first place. And one will then also probably have approached it to say that it is unlikely that they will be able to increase the revenue at the fee at the historical rates and still manage to increase the lenders. So that will essentially be talking to the same point. Does that make sense? But what this point will then have really shown, will have shown your contextualization of the issue. Because I think for most people that didn't question it, when it's 5%, it does not look bad. But now what you have done, Emmanuel, is to contextualize this point, and it does not seem to be appropriate, and therefore it could be an overestimation. Good point. Thank you. There is an ability of the students when they fluctuate between 400 and 450. Parents could have suffered from COVID and might find that, and that is the point that that is the point that Emmanuel, you were just talking about, but from the perspective of the parents. So, good point to say that therefore, this number could have been inflated given the context we need. All right. Do we see how one could have then challenge? The theme is the same between these 2 points. It's all about, given the fee increase, there will be an issue. All right. Are we all clear? Great, thank you. Then forecast EBITDA for 2021, 3,238,000. Any views there? Any views? If you don't, you can just do thumbs up, and then we'll see.
Rendani. So were we only supposed to raise issues, or even in areas that we agree with, like for instance that EBITDA, if I don't see an issue, was I supposed to say that I think this is reasonable because of 1, 2, 3?
So the approach generally, it's one, put most of your energy and time on the questionable stuff. And then 2, then maybe have a summary point if you're feeling very compelled to do so. To say, Ryan, those are my concerns. Everything else, I think it's in good order because of 1, 2, 3, and move on. You understand? Just one encompassing point. If you're just saying, I want to make sure I cover myself, and I just show Ryan that I did consider and I applied myself to, but I just don't want to go and telling Ryan, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. Let me just have one encompassing point that everything you're not seeing, I did consider it and I'm happy with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And generally speaking, it's just even when we see the approach in practice. In practice, I will really first want to know about what I should not believe. And then everything that I should believe, then I'm saying, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's fine. But what I should not believe, that's where the problem usually is. All right, number 3, Helena, go for it.
Hi, Rendani.
Yeah.
No, I know, I wanted to know where you are now, because I heard you mention the EBITDA.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm on line number 2.
Number 2. Okay, fine. These are the things I feel like maybe on the day they let me down because maybe due to under pressure and whatsoever. But now I'm coming to think of it, or even after the exam, I was thinking of it. Like there's a lot of question I could have maybe raised there. Because now they're giving me a line item like EBITDA, of which doesn't have a breakdown, first of all. And we know when we're preparing this thing, like we need to make sure if this EBITDA doesn't include like once off and other issues.
Okay, so generally for this approach, we will need to estimate a sustainable
Yes, I wanted to come there.
I noted that no adjustments were presented. Might be what? This might be inappropriate. Did you consider an example or did you leave it as a generic point?
Okay, no, on the day I didn't write those things, but now I'm just coming to think of it because okay, no, fine. The reason why I got a PC here, because I didn't question those things if they were once off or like the one that you mentioned there. But no, it's fine. I didn't raise that point. But I know it was a valid one. I have to link it to maybe to the pre-release and to the industry.
Yes, Randani, maybe I can just come in there. So what I was questioning is there's this entrance fees of about 5.5 per learner. That's part of your total revenue, which I think would have been a possible omission. So I think it would be a general earning or an expectation from the school to have entrance fees, even if it's once off.
And I don't know whether I'm being difficult here, but you can tell me, do you think it should be there? Give me a
I think it should be there.
Huh?
I believe it should be there because I would consider it to be sustainable and maintainable, which is what the valuation method is.
But you're talking to me in a general terms. In this context, do you feel it? Do you believe it should be there? And that's why I'm saying that I might have been that difficult marker, perhaps, to say that. Is it valid if one just says like that, or we expect one to take it a step further? Do you think I will be reasonable or unreasonable in that context?
I'm not sure, but I would think you'd be unreasonable because we'd need to justify why we're excluding it.
Okay, that's fair. I just wanted to know. Anyone who wants to explain why maybe I might want a little bit more from Helena. Yes, we will get new students every year. So in this case, since in 2020, we had 438 candidates, learners, and now it is estimated that they will be 5.1. It means that they will be new learners, and we would have expected there to be an entrance fee. Do you understand? So now I'm saying that you are taking it a step further to show Ryan that Ryan, I had looked at the numbers. Previously, the numbers were increasing, and that is why we're seeing it. So the reason why I'm saying that it's missing is because there was an increase in the learners.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. So basically, the entrance fee is based on the movement or the additional learners per year.
Usually it's like a once off when you register a learner in the school.
Okay.
Yes.
Makes sense. Thank you.
And that's why I was saying that given that one had put it here, then the question was, one, what did they expect you to do? Oh no, yes, my other screen. The entrance fee, if you go to the pre-release, there was an entrance fee of 5,500 per learner. So one will have then said, when is it paid and what is the difference between that and tuition? And entrance fee is usually paid once off when the learner is enrolled into a new school.
Interesting. Similar to like gym membership, you just pay off that registration fee once.
Yes. So it's like now if you get that that case and now you're questioning the nature of the revenue, that you'll then say, as you see the number of members changing, you'll expect it to be to exist or to be built.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. Yes.
Hi, Randana.
Yeah.
Even though there was that increase, like I'm asking myself, even if there was a decrease, surely it's a school. Like every year there'll be, if it's high school, there'll be new grade 8s and the matrics will move out. So even if it's a net negative, surely there would still be entrance fees for the new people moving in.
Practically speaking, yes.
So then it would be a valid point to put, even if it had decreased, as long as you just explain why you're putting that point.
Yeah, as I'm saying that, I would want you to tell me why you are saying it's missing. So what you're saying, if you had given me that, I will take it. It's a good point and valid.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. And remember that at this point, we are just engaging on this. And then obviously we'll arrange a meeting with the evaluators and say, we want to talk about these things. Are you saying that want to, but in this case, the reason I'm saying this is that in this case is not subject to question. Because now the question is, where are these learners coming from? Maybe they could say that, oh, we made a concession that we don't charge this. That could be a good response. So that's why we are saying we are surprised that we expected. Do you understand? Then when we send this note to the evaluators, they could say, oh, no, you are right. But in 2021, we decided to waive that due to COVID. Then we'll say, thank you for clearing that up. Yes, because at this point, we can't be definitive because there could be legitimate answers. And I know one of the schools, that my daughter was going to, they actually sent a letter last year to say they've scrapped it. And it was quite interesting. They even reduced the fee. So yeah, but it was quite interesting how these schools were operating under COVID. But so far, so good. And imagine we've got 4 strong points and we're still on line number 2. Anything else on line number 2?
Okay, I just want to come back, because that line was like sort of general, Will I be wrong if I ask, like they say the EBITDA there and whatsoever? If I say, okay, fine, I don't apply it to the maybe pre-release and the information on the day, will I be wrong if I say, okay, why they're like sort of I'm questioning the maintainable earnings, like general? Why is this thing not included? The non-recurring and the once-off and what? Would I be wrong? Then I'm not specific to say it's okay. This one is it was just a once-off.
But wait, how is what you're saying different to this? I'm not understanding. What do you say?
I can't see well because I'm connected to my phone right now.
Oh, okay. But I'm just saying what is different to the point you gave us before?
No, I just because last time you said maybe I should link.
Right. Yes. Anything else on EBITDA? Any EBITDA? I see a hand. Thank you. Mulukeng, please go for it.
Hi, Rendani.
Yeah.
I just have a question on questioning the reasonability of any of the amounts. So my question is, like when we have forecasts, like in this case, is it acceptable for one maybe to compare the forecasted figures to figures of competitors, but you find that the competitors' figures are for the current year?
So I will say rather compare with competitors, but consider the context. So
Okay.
I mean, if they are reporting deep in COVID and the one is reporting outside COVID, or if they've got different years, so that could be something that is a bit questionable. So when you consider, maybe first focus on the reasons to say that they are quoting 1, 2, 3. Are those things applicable to me? Like this school is in the Western Cape. If I'm comparing to a school that is based in Gauteng, are all those issues relevant? If they are, then let me go for it. If not, then let me just apply myself a bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I will not immediately say throw it away, it's not relevant, but find the underlying reasons, because you might even find good points of what to look for, how to look at something based on such a comparison.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Rendani, I have a question on the EBITDA, right? In questioning the reasonableness of that amount. I'm just thinking, they've given us an executive summary, right? So will it be fair then to then ask for details of the EBITDA when they're saying that this is a sort of like an executive summary? Or I'm just thinking, the expectation, should it be a detailed calculation of what has gone into the EBITDA, or I must just take it as an executive summary? I know that there are items that are supposed to be adjusted, but should I question it, or how should I approach that?
Yeah, but it's like that classic question in auditing where now the client will ask you, why do you want it? And if you have not at least raised any issues or provided clarity, then it will be very difficult for me to consider it a credit.
Please come again. I didn't get that, Rendani.
So if you just put it as a point to say we should ask for detailed breakdown of these numbers, for me, I will say that you have not yet demonstrated competence. And you need to take it a step further and say, I have concern with 1, 2, 3, and therefore you providing this breakdown will then help address them. So that's the point of where we are, that now if we raise all these issues and we then drop it off to management of Eglin or Elgin, then they will say that, no, sure enough, let's just provide you with the details and maybe some of those questions will be answered. But asking for such detailed in itself might not be an indicator of competence. Does that make sense?
So you're saying there's no need to ask for the detail, or what are you saying? I don't know if I'm understanding you.
But I'm saying that that in itself is not a contributing, or it's not a primary indicator of competence. If someone comes and say, can I have the numbers? For me, I don't know whether they're competent or not. So for you to say that I cannot have a credit for demonstrating competence.
Okay, so to be competent, then what then? How should I go about it?
The same way that we are questioning now. We are raising a technical issue. We are questioning the reasonability of this number. So we are raising another technical issue. We are raising issues about omissions. Now, if we send this to them and say, provide us with more details, then they understand the context. But asking for the details itself is not a primary indicator of competence, but the reasons is.
Yeah, because I'm just a bit confused, like in terms of the non-adjusting items, or which I think Linda mentioned about, if I don't see those adjusting factors, then how do I bring it in here? I'm just thinking on the ABT.
Yeah, but right now you've asked, so you've shown competence by asking that this is normally adjusted to make it sustainable. You have given a basis for raising this.
Oh, okay.
So this is not something that anyone will know. You have demonstrated technical competence by raising this issue of maintainable and adjustment for oneself.
Even though there isn't any examples, or even if I can't link it to any information that I was given in the pre-release info, or on
that will depend on the mark. That will depend on the marking team. If the scenario has examples that are clear, then they could say a demonstration of competence might be to provide an example. If they aren't, maybe they will accept that. So it always depends on context, that one.
Oh, okay, but questioning it's needed. I had to question that.
But this is a very strong point as it stands. You have raised maintainability. That is something that shows technical competence. This was not evident here, and that you have raised it. You have demonstrated to me that you know something about this. I would like to have you in my team.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
Brendan, sorry. While we're still on the maintainable earnings, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just did a quick calculation on expressing the EBITDA as a percentage of the total revenue. So what I realized is
total.
20. Sorry?
You did total.
I say I just expressed the EBITDA, that 3.2 as a percentage of that focus revenue. I just said, yeah. So then comparing to 2019, it looks like, okay, the percentage is 17.7 for both 2019 and 2021. Assuming that 2020 was not a good year. So he just used that same, like on the focus, he just expressed the EBITDA as a percentage. Sorry, he just agreed to 2019 figures. But my issue is now, they told us that 3 teachers resigned in 2018 and they were never replaced. They were only replaced in 2020. So, I mean, the teachers also is another biggest cost, the employee cost. So I don't know how much, okay, assuming that that will make a difference, it will definitely affect that EBITDA, because it increases the operating costs from 2020, 2021, of which 2019, the teachers were not replaced yet.
I love that point.
I don't know if I'm talking in circles, but I just want to point that it won't be, because it looks like he just take the ratios for 2019 to to forecast 2020. He probably assumed that 2020 was not good. So
yeah, let's keep it there. Okay. I'm very happy with that point. Critical thinking right there. Should I tell Elton that his video helped? So that's a very brilliant point. Well done. Like, very well done. So I mean, you broke that number and analysis down in a very elegant manner. You were clear, and the issues were all relevant and contextualized. Well done. And and I mean, the way you build the argument, this is what is really expected. I mean, you cannot come with this in the assessment. You needed to be there. So, and the thing I love about this point is that you are connecting both the IOD and the pre-release. You are seeing it as a single document or as a single task. And that is essentially a very, very good demonstration of competence right there. Thank you.
Rendani, can you please repeat the point that the previous speaker talked about? I see you've mentioned that it's a good point, but I'm trying to make sense of it. Please, if you can just repeat it.
2019, it was said to us that there were 3 teachers that were not part of the staff complement because they resigned in 2018. And he then said, and teachers generally a significant component of the cost. And that could be the reason why the margin for 2019 is high at 17% versus in when the teachers were replaced, and the margin and the employee costs increased notably, and the margins were lower. The use of 2019 margins might not be appropriate in this context. That's what he was talking to.
Okay, thank you.
So firstly is the issue about the teachers, noting that the teachers resigned, and further now elaborating that they are a significant component, and noting that 2019 was higher and they were not there, whereas in 2020 was lower and they were there. And even when you compare the employee cost in the pre-release, you could see that there was an addition of about 400, I think 1.2 million for additional. So one will then clearly see that, yes, even if we consider increases in employee salary, then the 3 teachers could have contributed. And for us to just use that margin, it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, that's an HC point indeed.
An HC point. All right, but well done. I love that point. And to the examples of ones of non-recurring, and I could have made an example here and said it might need to be considered when the teachers were actually appointed. Because if they were appointed during the year, then it will suggest that in 2021, we will have needed to consider their full salaries. So to then just note this as maybe that was not previously incorporated, and just to think about it this way could be an example. But as I'm saying that this was enough with or without an example for me. All right. It's late. Let's do this. Let's stop there. Give me the points about tax and let's call it tonight. Do you have any point about FY EBITDA, FY 2021 after tax? Do you have a point?
The only issue that I had, Rendani, it's with them using the EBITDA after tax to calculate the value. I don't know if I'm jumping points as opposed to using the before tax.
What are you saying?
So what I'm saying is that in calculation of the enterprise value, I'm not sure if I'm jumping where you are. I'm saying what I noted is that in the calculation of the enterprise value, they used EBITDA after tax, right? As opposed to the EBITDA before tax.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the concern that I have.
I will not give you a credit so far. I feel like you've not given me enough. You've just told me your observations, but you've not told me whether that's wrong, whether that's not reasonable, whether there's something missing. So at this point, I'm not sure what point you are raising.
So when using this method, right, it says that we must use the EBITDA before tax. So they have used the EBITDA after tax, which is the 2331 as opposed to the 3238. That is my concern. Is it still not enough?
I think we might be aligned, but it could be just the wording and the simplification, but I think we're on the same boat. And just to clarify, EBITDA in itself is before tax. Therefore, to make a tax adjustment is technically incorrect. I mean, this is called earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. How do you come and say this is the EBITDA after tax? Do you understand? Like, it's like, it sounds like you are reviewing an English note. Yeah, but essentially it's a technical issue. And that's why I'm saying that you are approaching it from here. But I think in itself, when you look at these two, you then realize that there was a bit of a problem. But let us leave it here. But look, we have 6 points. Are you not impressed with the answers you're coming up with? I mean, these answers are coming from you. Are you not impressed with yourselves?
Sure.
I mean, it's 6 points. Imagine where you are. Like, you have to criticize this guy, then this guy not much. You have to criticize this guy. You have to criticize this guy. And I mean, this was a beautiful question. This was a beautiful question. All right, let's wrap it up. I really thought this thing would finish in 90 minutes. I promise. I don't know what happened. I don't know. But yeah, here we are. But thank you.
Sorry, Rendani, I had a question. Yeah. Sorry, last question.
Sure.
So the last aspect we needed to cover was the valuation result, right? I know we didn't get to that, but as an approach, is it okay if per point that I put down, I potentially just write down the impact on the results of the valuation. So say, for example, I'm saying that the revenue seems to be overstated. Can I then say that this could have this impact on the final results?
Yeah.
Can I take that approach as opposed to waiting till the end to comment on the valuation result?
Yeah, I will say that will be safe, because maybe you can explain to me, because some of these questions they confuse me whether they want something specific. So when they say the assumption underlying the valuation result, what did you read into at the valuation result?
So I was thinking I need to comment on the 16 million.
The final answer.
Yes.
And comment to say whether it's too much or too low. Is that what you thought?
But then I would obviously, yes, but I would need to base it on, I'd need to have a basis for saying whether it's too high or too low. So I'd go and say, I'd compare it. Maybe they should try a different valuation method and compare that to the 16 million that they used using the EBITDA. But then I'm also just thinking, is it fine if I go line by line and impact, and then just document the impact on the results, as opposed to waiting till the end, which is the 16 million, which is just one comment actually. I don't think I really have more to say than having an alternative method.
No, it's an
or comparing it to an
question.
alternative method.
I would say don't all go overboard with it. Like sometimes when we're doing it here, we say that this sounds too much because they might not achieve these numbers, and therefore this is therefore this number could have been inflated. So you will have then said that this could have then inflated the valuation, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that is probably safe, and it doesn't take too much of your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, and then just wanna add on the previous speaker now.
Yeah.
I felt like the question was more like an open-ended task where the examiner is more interested in your thought process. Like at the end, it didn't necessarily need any conclusion to say this is right or wrong. So I feel like it was more like your thought process was quite important there. You didn't need to conclude.
No, I hear you. So, and maybe then the question that I also posed to her to say, and the valuation results, what did it mean to you?
The result, the end result.
So did you specifically attempt to address to make sure that the examiners know you spoke to the results? Like, what deliberate effort did you make?
It was basically on analyzing the assumptions and just giving my understanding of the technical side of how to use this EBITDA multiple. And then just answer that last aspect, because I felt like it was more a multidisciplinary task where you have to bring anything that's key or that's relevant on valuation and try to put more insight points. Not necessarily to conclude at the end to say the value is right or wrong or is too high or. No.
I'm with you. Okay. Now, fair point. Fair point.
Rendani, just one question. On that note, for valuation results. So you're saying for one to make sure that they touch the valuation results, in a better way would be to sort of like in each and every concern indicate if it will overstate or understate the value. I don't know whether correct.
So that was a question, and I was saying that, yeah, because it's such a difficult point to say, what do you want from me after I've given you a line by line? So to Helena's view, I was saying that that approach might be safe. But as I'm saying that for me, I really didn't know whether they wanted something for me to do something specific
Or
to
isn't
apply
like
my mind on the valuation results. So if I have now applied my mind on the inputs, have I not automatically applied my mind on the 60? So that's where I was a bit lost.
Oh, I get you.
But if she was in my group and she told me that, I would have been swayed. Cindy? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
For that additional value to be derived by the online model, I'm not sure if I understood that line at all. So are they saying that of the 451 learners above 400 are going to study online, and due to the using the online, they have to pay 43,000, not 40,450, and now this 1 million that we're speaking to is the extra revenue? Or
Yeah.
what do they mean by it? Like, I wasn't really sure exactly what they were on about.
Yes, and it's a very interesting question you're asking. So do you buy it? Like if so, firstly, what did you understand that they were going to do?
So my understanding was that if you are an online student, you're now going to pay more. And my question was, wouldn't that just be normal revenue? And secondly, is it reasonable to make people pay more online? Because people would expect to pay less online.
All right, so one, you are saying that will there actually be value to this, right? So your view is to push this down to 0. Is that what you say? Because it feels like you are getting there.
No, my thing would be to, yeah, you can push it to 0 if it's because I'm sure you'll do some tests to see if people are willing to pay the additional amount. So if in practice people aren't paying more because of COVID, they don't have money, then you push it to 0. Otherwise, you push it to the revenue. Like, I wasn't sure what it was doing under equity value is really my question.
Yeah, and there were so many things that you could have done with that. So I'm going to put yours under here because you are questioning getting it down to 0 to say that in the current environment, the market approach for schools has been not to charge additional for online. Instead, we are finding that online is actually cheaper than the what? Than the traditional face-to-face models. Therefore, you are concerned about the consideration of additional value, right? That is your point number 1, which is a very good point. And if you accept that they will be charging, if they say that no, that's what the board signed off, it sounds that now you are also questioning that will the parents afford an additional amount to the standard tuition. I mean, this is all these things that they're saying verify with the valuation. Do you see? So you are asking very good questions there.
So, like, let's say it wasn't COVID and that was very normal. Like, should it be under equity value? I'm also a bit like, what? Why?
And that is question number 4. I mean, the money right there. Talk to me about that last point. Yes, let's now agree that parents can afford. 1, let's agree that we can charge more. So what are you saying about it?
I'm not sure, because to me it looks weird that it's sitting there. I would just have it under revenue, but I don't know, the way they called it value, like I really don't know.
So, but what is your concern? Talk to me about your concern. I'm not getting clear your concern.
I don't know if it belongs there. Like, should it not be in rev? Because my initial thing, because since they're saying extra tuition fees, me seeing tuition fees, I would want it in revenue. So I'm not sure why it's and the equity value. That's my concern. Why is this tuition fee different to other tuition fees?
Okay. I hear you, but I think I wanted something more. Like, for instance, in this case, are you assuming that the additional tuition charge will translate to equity value, right? No cost that will be incurred in taking what? In undertaking this project or offering. I mean, like, we cannot just take revenue and we say that, hold on, that is the additional value, because that's what they're saying.
Oh, okay. So I think
Yes.
I understand now.
Because
Yeah,
if you put it on top, you will then be able to charge cost against it. So that's why I was saying that, why do you want it on top? So I'll say I want it on top because there might be additional people that we need to appoint. There will be systems. So it cannot be that you can just simply say you're going to charge on average extra tuition and that will be value. And the other point that seems to be saying is, when is it? Therefore, how many years do we need to do it? And is, like, what the valuation matrix? How did you calculate this? How was this value determined? Because one will think what? One will think that this will be a sustainable amount. So, I mean, look at just one line, we were able to go to town with it. Okay, but yeah, thank you very much. You guys, I'm loving where you are, especially at 10 o'clock in the evening. I mean, APC can touch you much, right? I mean, if you can think like this at 10 o'clock in the evening, right?
Hi, Rendan.
Hi, Makatso.
Mara kahle, guys, why are you not standing in for us? You see, now you are even enjoying the answers that the team is giving to you. So basically, this thing, we are supposed to write it in a team, as a team, so that we can all pass. Because if we are a team, we work together. So go and present us to SAICA to say these people, they want to write in a team, because when they're a team, they work together. Amen to that.
But do you not work in the same company? So employers will be confused that they can't employ the team that was strong and delivered an HC response. Would it not complicate life?
It wouldn't, because now if I'm having an issue, if I'm having a technical transaction that I'm unable to account on my own, I am able to call whether it's my friends or it's my colleagues. Then we come together, we discuss, and we end up coming up with the right way of accounting for that transaction. So it should be the same in terms of this APC assessment.
You think the teamwork is not enough before the assessment itself?
I need you trick us on the day.
Are these tricks? All right, Demarcus, I hear you. I hear you. Emmanuel, close the session for us, please. Yes.
Okay, Rendan, thanks. Mine, I think, like, more special on subtask number 3. I think, like, I was performing, I don't know what kind of due diligence was I performing, but then, like, I looked at the environment, which is Western Cape, and then I thought of Cape Town, and then, like, the violence that is going on that side. And then I also thought of the cyberbullying that is going on at different schools. And then I asked myself a question such as, like, if I'm acquiring this school and I'm gonna, like, ruin my reputation that I'm currently having in Gauteng by acquiring a school which I'm not, like, really familiar of, and then, like, there can be, like, some fights, which at the end of the day, like maybe the parents will not like really be happy. So was I overthinking, or my thinking was just out in that context?
I think this is where I'll also probably need a group to say that the context that you're giving, I was not aware of personally. So if I was in a group context, which is where the marking occurs, I will then say, yes, guys, what is your view? Do you think that this is something that could impact transactions of this nature in this province and so on? So that will be my practical approach, because you are saying these things and they might be valid, but then the question is, to what extent will they impact the economics of the school? And at this point, I don't have a good answer for that. I won't lie. But if you, and maybe then the marketing team then considered it and thought that, yes, the external environment and they could impact the issues here. And I think also additionally, when I approached it, I had thought about issues that could then impact the numbers presented here. And that's where I was saying that from an economics perspective, if you had told me that maybe that could lead to increased security over the years, that means the EBITDA is overstated, or that could result in candidates preferring online more. So those could then be how I would have wanted the point to be linked back to to the economies. So that for me at this point, if I say no, I might be saying no because of my own limited rationality, but maybe they could be said to say, no, I agree 100%, this could not have been ignored.
Rendani,
Okay,
one last question, please.
All right.
Do you remember in the pre-recorded videos, you mentioned about the positives and the negatives, right? When you were going through the information, where will we factor it here in this question?
The multiple has not been adjusted. They told us it's appropriate, but I'll say, do you do that? Because if someone says it's appropriate, I just want to know, do you do all those adjustments for positive and negatives that I had picked up? Do you understand? Because they just told me it's appropriate. And when they say it's appropriate, they're saying they've made those adjustments. But I might ask, so which adjustments did you make? Did you consider, because I noted 1, 2, 3, and so on. And then the answer could be, yes, I did. But I will raise it to just find out, how did you get to the decision that this is appropriate?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the engagement. Please work at it. I hope that this was useful in terms of just how to think through it. And I think one of the things that's always important is that, yes, some points may be challenging, but you will see that there's actually always quite a lot to do. And the expectation of a competent response is never to do what? It's never to hit on all of the things that might be in the final solution of the marking grid, but it's just to have sufficient coverage, which changes from one task to the other, and show depth. And depth, as I said last time, it's a matter of reading your point and saying, is this clear enough for a stranger to know what I'm talking about? That for me, it's always a measure of depth. All right, but thank you very much for your time, patience, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Rendani. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rendani.
Thanks, Rendani.
Cheers.
But yeah, I think going into the assessment, I'll be asking myself, I want more.
Great.
Every time you ask a question, you're like, I want more. So I'll be asking myself the same question. So thank you.
Great. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.